Mayor, good morning or good afternoon. How
Good
are
morning.
you?
I'm well. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We're over here on the west side off of Cassett, and they're grilling here at CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living, so maybe you need to come over here and get you some grub and hang out with us. We are talking about the stadium because we just talked about the news that came out that the back-to-back games will be played home and away for the Jaguars in London. How do you feel as you're exiting the office that where we are momentum-wise in getting everything done for approval of a stadium?
So I don't expect that we'll have a negotiation wrapped up before I leave, but I expect that we will be in a pretty good posture for the next administration to pick it up and begin to move quickly. And here's what to expect. So it's probably going to be a renovation, and it will appear because the bones are good. It'll be just like a brand new stadium, though. It'll be state of the art. And I think what's important for people to know, for the public, as we engage in this, is you got to start thinking about what these deals look like in other cities where they've recently negotiated deals. Because it's important for people to know that if the owner and the city come to a deal, it's not automatically approved. The NFL is obviously the commissioner and its owners. The owners of the league will have to approve that deal, as well as the NFL. So they'll be looking at the terms. So we are going to have to consider what did the terms of those other recent stadium deals look like. Not that they would be identical, but it's certainly a starting point and something that I know that the NFL will be watching closely as well.
So, Lenny, two questions. One structural and one overreaching. The structural is we spoke to you about a year ago, and you firmly believe that it can be done during the season, that you will not have to move games to another city for a season. That's number one. And talk about that. And number two, how important, it's not only just the Jags, they're clearly number one in line, but that Florida-Georgia game with the new 9-game schedule in the SEC, Florida and Georgia may want to take the game elsewhere. That could help keep it here, correct?
Yeah, a couple things. So best case scenario, I think that I expect that the renovation will take 2 years, 2 seasons. And the team will have to play somewhere else. The goal would be to play somewhere in Jacksonville. Those discussions are happening. But 2 years is the goal. Part of this deal does also take into consideration Florida-Georgia, Georgia-Florida game, depending on which year it is. And my chief administrative officer right now is in regular communications and talks with both schools. So we're still working the deal. Ideally, maybe it's we're in 2023, so maybe it's a 25-26 renovation. That'd be a good goal. And then both schools would, in those 2 years, get their home game. And then the goal is to have already negotiated a deal that they're back in Jacks under the new stadium in 27 and beyond.
Hi, Mayor Curry. It's Mia. I'm just curious, when you say that the Jaguars won't be able to play as the renovation is going on within the stadium, are you talking about practice or games as well? Because where else in Jacksonville, if you were able to share, would they look to potentially play games then?
So I haven't spoken to them about practice, but I would expect with the new practice facility, my guess would be that practices would happen here. And I can't, no decision has been made. I do know that they are considering certain sites that are local that could accommodate them for at least 2 years. And remember, I think it was it the Chargers that played in a very small stadium for a couple of years? Is that right?
Yeah,
they were
the
a 20,000 seater. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, the goal is to play those football games in Jacksonville. I know they care about that.
Yeah, man.
But it's exciting. This is incredibly exciting. The lease expires in 2030, but it would be unwise for the next administration to say, 2030, that's 7 years out. Because if you put this off, that's when you start getting into trouble negotiating, and it would not be good for any party involved. This has to happen. These negotiations have to happen now, and as the next administration comes in, and this deal has to get closed and approved and get this underway.
Okay, Mayor, if that happens for 2 years, the team will have to travel. wouldn't be would it was there any commentary about just building a whole new stadium, even if and traveling maybe to Orlando or some other place to play? Because I mean, $2 billion to build a new stadium, and then $600 million to renovate it. If you just build a new stadium, and then they travel for 2 years and wait for the new stadium, I mean, was that even considered?
I believe that it's going to be. I really believe that it's going to be a major renovation, but that you will, when it's done, you'll think you're in a brand new stadium, because we're basically renovating because the bones are good. It will be a completely different facility. It will be state of the art. It will be something that other cities look at and say, "Wow, look at what Jacksonville just did." And again, then in that 2-year period, the goal is to find if they can, to find a place to play the ball games in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's kind of running through my head right now, just trying to imagine. We're talking with Mayor Lenny Curry on 1010 XL about the possibility of moving forward seriously with stadium plans. UNF is the only place that I could think of that would even come close. Mayor, or is there another place that I'm not thinking of?
I'm not good at. You guys have been doing this a long time, so you guys know what you're talking about. I'll leave it at that and say I'm not going to get over my skis on this.
Yeah, and I totally get it. But I do think, and we've talked about this, and maybe you can just kind of give us enlighten us a little bit. Have there been other cities that are nearby that have said, you know what, we will step up and we will host those games? Because I would be a little worried if Orlando wanted to step in and host those games.
I have. If any of those conversations have happened, I have not been privy to them, and I've been in almost all of these conversations. So I don't think so at this point.
Let me ask you a different question then, Mayor Curry, on a different front with regards to this deal, which is when this new deal is in place, and I think this is really important for our listeners in the city of Jacksonville to understand. It wouldn't just be that these taxpayer dollars are going towards the stadium. Explain the other projects that then would be directly involved and other beneficiaries of such an investment.
Well, the surrounding area, right now there's housing and residential units happening in the area. We are, as you probably have seen in the news, we have secured funding from the state and the city and private donors to bring a graduate campus from the University of Florida to somewhere downtown. That site hasn't been selected. But it will be downtown, and I think that again, the stadium renovation just it all feeds each other. They all feed each other, and also, the stadium is a city-owned asset. I mean, I think that's important for taxpayers to know too. That's the city asset, and there's a lease agreement. The team leases the facility.
Lenny, you've been around budgets and dealing with how you spend money and how it gets spent. What's the biggest obstacle, you think? What's going to be the biggest pushback on doing something with the stadium?
I think that we just have to be transparent with the public and communicate with the public and make the case to the public that this is important for Jacksonville. If you're not a fan of the team, if you're not a fan of the NFL, you don't watch it. If it's not your thing, it's not your hobby. This still matters for our city, big picture. So again, I think the public buy-in, because there's 1 million people in the city, and there's a large number of those people that maybe aren't, engaged in that football's not their deal. But we have to make the case. That's what I think, because it's going to be a heavy investment of city dollars. It's going to have to be.
Yeah, it really is. And when we look around, just a couple more for Lenny Curry, mayor of the city of Jacksonville, we look around and everyone that is a football fan, like you just described, not everyone is, but they're paying attention. And this is the last, it's almost like a bit of a dinosaur, the last stadium standing that hasn't had a major reno. And I think that I think the NFL is probably paying attention to that as much as anything. And I'm sure those voices are being heard, right?
Absolutely. And I said it when we opened. We negotiate a deal, owner in the city, then the other owners and the NFL has to approve of and sign off on that deal. And I would also say to the next administration in the next city council, there will be noise around this, public noise, because it's tax dollars being invested. But these are the types of big deals that elected officials need to take a stand if they believe it's important, which I do, and be willing to take the arrows and take the criticisms to do something big like this. This can't be kicked down the road to, let's have 2 years of conversations about this. Let's negotiate a deal. Let's include the public, and then let's move.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big identifier
Well, it's too late
for the
right
city.
now. It's too late to keep kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
You are where you are right now.
Right.
It's the worst stadium in the league.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It's time.
All right, now
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
what are you going to do? Let us know. I mean, what are the days like? What's the timeline for you?
Well, some people have asked me if I'm retiring, and to that I say my oldest starts college this summer, and there's 2 behind them. So between the 3 kiddos, I'm going to go back into the private sector and make some money, make sure I get them through college. I will stay actively involved in local, state, and national politics. And will I be on a ballot again? I don't wake up thinking about that, but if the right door opens, you never know.
That's true. Always leave it open. Listen, man, we appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you soon, and hopefully we will see some movement on this front because I know Jaguar fans are dying to find out.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Mayor.
Lenny.
All right.
Good one.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Mayor.
Lenny.
All right.
Good one.